Welcome to the Outside Game. I am the host with the most, Keith Bullock, with my main man, Don Povia, riding shotgun as usual.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Monday Night. And I think we actually did what we said we were going to do. We're say, hey, we'll see you next week. And here we are. We got one in.
Hey, consistency. It's all about consistency.
Congrats to us. But let's keep a little bit with the COVID theme. Although this week we're bringing in a special guest, an old friend, an old colleague. We say old is kind of like the old Jeff Eisenband joke. Our old young friend that we have here, Tyler Brosious. Tyler, welcome.
What's up, man? How are you guys doing? It feels like, I feel like anytime I get on the phone or a podcast with you two, it's just another day at the office, kind of. We're always in a group chat with some idea rolling or something. So it's good to, as always, check in with you two.
Yeah, no, I think it's like when we're talking about this earlier in the week. I thought it was a great idea to have you on because obviously, the different guests we do, are the feature and usually the main focus of their industry. And, you're one of those people that there wouldn't be those industries wouldn't really work too well if there weren't people like you behind the scenes making all the deals and everything happen. So I think this is going to be a great podcast for us to have you on here to shed some perspective on things that people don't even think about. So thanks for coming on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, back with that COVID theme, like I said, people talk about everybody being stuck in the house and sports not happening. And it's not just the athletes or the teams or the franchises or the leagues that are affected by that. It's really the personnel that's affected too. So Tyler, most recently, you've done a lot of stuff in a short period of time as a social media strategist and a practitioner, a guy that gets in there as a community manager on the creative side. But, most recently you were with the league office for the XFL and, unfortunately how things went down there. You're looking for work just like a lot of people are right now. But, I don't think you're going to have any issues with that. But tell us a little bit about that XFL experience. One of our first guests was president of the New York team, Janet Dutch. And, there was a different perspective a few months ago. But, somebody that was on the inside, what's your overall take on the league and how things went down?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is everything's kind of in the past 5 weeks. My first feeling is really sad and upset because up into literally to the day, as I always explain, of course, Don, we're not even 5 seconds in, I'll bring up my mom. But as I'm trying to explain it to my mom, we started week 1 out of 9 out of 10. Whenever you're trying to talk ratings to non-sports people, it's just easier to go off a 1 through 10 scale. So ratings were a 9 out of 10, and ESPN, Fox Sports, everybody was going to be okay with a threshold of about 3 out of 10. We never really got below a 5 out of 10, hypothetically. So for us, we were really excited about the path. Year 2 looked good. Year 3 looked even better. I was in conversations about possible locations for next teams and what that would look like from a content standpoint and reaching audiences that aren't really usually reached from the NFL or even in our newer markets in the XFL. So we were really excited about that. And then, I call it the Rudy Gobert day. That day where that Wednesday, everything kind of shut down. We went from, not even, this might sound really upsetting to some, but we were kind of laughing as a group. Some people traveled east from California and we were kind of oh, COVID, some people were doing knuckles or elbows, but it wasn't very serious. And then by Wednesday it was okay, we're gonna have to have the Seattle game without fans. And then by Thursday our regular season was cut. So, but then you go from that month from when the regular season was cut to what I call Good Bad Friday now. A lot of names in this sad story, but we were planning for 2021, and then by week 3 of the off season, we kind of got some messaging let's tone back 2021. We don't really know exactly when we'll play, and that's when things got a little murky. And then that Friday, we all woke up with a little extra money in our bank accounts, and we all the writing was on the wall. And by the meeting started at 12 o'clock, and by 12:08, I was looking for a new job. So really upsetting because I truly believe, especially on our front, the digital marketing team and content team delivered exactly what we said we were going to deliver and then some. So, equal parts upsetting and satisfactory that, we can go in the interviews and be we delivered on everything we did. the teams delivered on everything they did. We just, we didn't go to page 99 where it said how to handle a global pandemic when you're not, we don't know when college football will play, when the NFL will play, how to compete with those two markets and stay profitable as you're paying people a higher premium because you want the best talent. So I kind of get it. By that Sunday, I totally understood the reasoning behind it. And as us being so well connected to the WWE, they were taking losses. The XFL was only looking at losses because, obviously startups, you have to take some lumps, but there was a lot more lumps coming in when half your season's cut down.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, and can you tell exactly what your role was with the XFL?
Yeah, so my role with the XFL was kind of fun. When I met with Fred Harner, we always joked that 9 a.m. I went in for an all-day interview, and it was for a social media position. And by 11 o'clock, with my experience on the website side and social media and a few other things, I got bumped to digital content manager, which for me was great, not only fiscally, but responsibility-wise. At my age, it was a great next step. With that, I was one of the 3 editor-in-chiefs of the entire website. So with all 8 teams being owned by one guy, we were able to basically be the hub. So nothing got posted on one of the 8 team sites or the league site without going through me or one of my 2 coworkers. And also by like week 2, they realized that I still have my little addiction to social media. So I was being pulled into the team meetings for social media, league meetings. So I was like kind of a Swiss Army knife, but my home base was on the website and app development. So real exciting stuff. Like as exciting as the right features about guys that are getting shine on TV, like we were doing such minute things like how do stats look and how do we player link pages, like stuff that you go to NFL.com you take for granted from like 2003 on, we were making happen at the ground floor. So that stuff, that's when people say like, what was it like creating a league? Like you can't make up. Like being there the first day when jerseys were revealed is one thing, but being in meetings where it's like, okay, how do player profiles look? And that really small stuff is really what you could take to your next gig and really shine a light on.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that experience that you alluded to. And how old are you?
24.
24. So
mentally 54.
Yeah, probably.
Real life geek.
Kind of starting at Quinnipiac, it's interesting to you too, because guys like this, he talks about social media, they were born into it, right? This is just second nature to them, right? This is stuff that we turn, let's say, internet, let's say we're turning 17, 18, right? And we're figuring that out, email, and then social media, skip ahead another 10 years or what have you. But these are guys that just kind of are, born with it. They're born into it. It's just native. They're digitally native people. So you had done some work with Quinnipiac in the media department, through, and we'll take you through there. But why don't we start with that? I know that was a challenging but fruitful experience for you that you certainly kind of look at as the baseline for what you did starting back in college.
Yeah, and it kind of started like the little, if it blossoms into a tree, right? Like the little roots of it was growing in high school. We were lucky down in South Jersey in Mount Laurel. We had our own like broadcast television. So I would do play-by-play for every sport, and it would air on channel 19, which, probably doesn't even get 100 viewers when it's there, but you're getting reps and you're dealing with production in your ear going. They were going into commercial, like stuff I wasn't even doing at Quinnipiac. So I used that experience and that leverage to get to all the games. And then I would live tweet all the games in like 2009, 2010, like before social really even picked up. Like I was doing it off a BlackBerry. I was live tweeting, couldn't even access Instagram. It was
Keith, you know what we had? We had the guy with the VHS tape thing at the top of the press box recording it. And we're lucky if those tapes even still exist now. And now you're talking about high school.
They're very grainy.
right.
Yeah,
all over the place.
So, like,
and he's live tweeting games in high school.
Yeah, that was my thing. And I was just like, I'll do it on my account. And before you know, like South Jersey journalists and all these people were starting to follow me. And like, I'm sitting at 16 with 1,500 followers. So then I took that over to Barstool when I was like 19 and did the whole Barstool route, which blossomed me to more followers, more learning about social blogging. I still think probably one of the top 3 youngest bloggers ever on a site that's just become, a monster. Took that and really went to Quinnipiac, continued broadcasting. But the problem was that I was getting paid $10 an hour in the fall and the spring to do play-by-play, which between you and me is great beer money, sandwich money, out of the dining hall, whatever. The problem was in winter, they hire out to ESPN for play-by-play, and I needed to figure out how to make myself different to make sure I could be at every hockey game, so then I could write. At the time, I really wanted to be a feature writer. The access that I got from being a social media guy, I went in, it was like 2014, and I said, your social media stinks. It can't be all links. You can't post grainy photos and links and expect to compete with the Michigans, the North Dakotas. So I gift every single hockey goal for 5 years. And it got picked up everywhere. So like we kind of grew but the problem is, of course, when you're in college is that if you do it for one team, the other 20 varsity teams want a slice of the pie. And that was fine with me because it meant more money, working harder, more time and not only that, but you're learning 20 different sports. Like I was the only person in the world that could write a feature story about a sport like acrobatics and tumbling while stat a game like field hockey. So like I would joke like in my college time, like it would be like an October day and I would play-by-play in social a soccer game from 11 a.m. to 1. I'd go to the next field and do field hockey from 1 to 3. I go back and do a men's soccer game from 3 to 5, throw on a suit and go up to the arena and run social and write like a 1,500-word feature story for men's ice hockey and still be able to catch, like only miss the first hour of my pregame with my buddies. So like, I was like, this is living the life, and wake up on Sunday and do 2 more games and be ready for the Eagles kickoff at 4 o'clock. So like, for me, it was all planning and routine. I knew very well. Yeah. For me, it was like, I know I'm never going to be the straight A student. And I think, yeah, you can learn a lot by reading books, but for me, it was like, I want to get my hands dirty. How do you can't read a book and figure out how to cover a 10-0 blowout or a 1-1 tie in overtime. So like getting as many reps in so many different situations was something that was really exciting for me. And that's really what allowed me to move into my next jobs, my opportunities with Don, and then moving on to my job at the XFL.
Well, I was going to say, go ahead, Keith, but guess.
So, like having all that experience at such a young age with, like you said, getting in there, getting your hands dirty, rolling your sleeves up, and then now, you're more of on the social media stage. Is there like, do you miss that blogging and like actual hands-on with the team sports?
Yeah, so for me, it was like, how do I mix it all, right? Like I was at the time, I run into this problem when I mentor a lot of students now that are seniors or going to graduate from getting their master's or whatever. It's like, yes, it's great to have 4 or 5 different pitches, but if there's 2 outs, 3 balls, 2 strikes in the 9th inning, what's your strikeout pitch?
Right.
Like I always knew I could blog, I could always feature write, I could help set up a website, but my Billy Wagner fastball at 102 miles an hour is going to be my social media. No one can put together a social media checklist and master it and complete it on game day with a fun, creative, objective driven side like I can right now. At least I believe so. So that's my fastball. And then you're just lucky because if you tackle someone like me at 24, you have what I think is 9 years experience, but he's still 24. So it's a very interesting thing to bring. It's like, oh, he's 24, he's 3 years experience. Like, no. I've been doing this and learning this craft since social media was down to 140 characters, like the Stone Age. So for me, learning every single thing and staying current is probably the trickiest thing, but I just keep the reps and whatever opportunity. That's why at the XFL, the hunch to really look at how websites look and how they feel and mastering AP style even more. So like all that really moved me to the next step of my career, which is giving me, as I'm on the job hunt, some fun, creative opportunities.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned the gymnastics and things like that, and talking about that sort of gap, let's say, between Quinnipiac and the XFL. You're covering WNBA, and not to say that's obscure, but it's a challenge in many rights compared when you're dealing with the big 3 and the NLL lacrosse league. So being able to not only be willing to do these things, but I think you've embraced them, like almost like they're challenges, but it allows you to allow your creativity to shine. And I think you were recognized for that, right? People were talking about the best WNBA account that nobody's reading, and that had a lot to do with you. And it sounds like that experience and that willingness and appreciation for doing things as a student without sort of the glitz and the glamour really, open up the doors for not just the jobs, but to be successful at those jobs.
Yeah, and I remember back in I think maybe 2016, our AD sent me an article, and it was a whole long article about Clemson football and how they covered their first national championship game. And they talked about a 25-person staff. And for me, it was like, let's treat, and that's the national championship. They're all salaried. Cool, great. Let's treat every single game I cover like it's the Clemson football national championship game. And from there, it was a two-parter. At Quinnipiac, I was but I allowed all these great kids that came from the communication field, whether they want to shoot video, they want to shoot features, write features, be on air, whatever they want to do. We built out about a 50-person, for lack of a better term, club that they got paid, work study, and they were able to produce content on a larger scale than they would in a student media organization for the athletic department. So I was running meetings, full content plans, so every team was covered in a right way. And then I took that to the Sun and the Black Wolves, where it was like, okay, smaller budget, one graphic designer, one video guy. And I treat it like the buffet style. Like, if you're going to pay X amount of dollars for the buffet, do not come back with one piece of turkey and a piece of bread. Fill up the damn plate. And at that point, when I explained that to my video editor, it was like, great. And speaking in layman's terms again, like, if you're going to shoot 100 pieces of video for, a feature or for a pumper or whatever, and you're only going to use 30, where did those other 70 go? Do not scrap them. Can I cut them off to 20-second clips? And as I was really lucky, because the WNBA is an interesting one in Connecticut, right? You have two main markets, the market you want and the market you're getting. The market we were getting were Facebook heavy, 50 plus older white people, for lack of better terms, coming from UConn, and if they're not watching UConn women's basketball, they want to watch women's basketball in the summer. And they are the people that want to know, I bought the 2-season tickets, where are fanny packs? They're commenting right on Facebook. So and then I was really allowed to go, we wanted to seek a younger African-American audience, female, on the Twitter and Instagram side, and just have a little bit more fun and really reach that. So using my pop culture references, saying reference, and that's where you really saw this new outlook I created in the WNBA, really shined a light on it. I'm sure it's been done before, but I think in the WNBA, in that league, it was a lot more, we're all in this together. If one team wins, we all win. And I don't think you can build a league that way. So we really started to get edgy. We started to really clap back at teams. Luckily enough, like I always say, we were the best team in the league the entire season. And people kept calling us underdogs. We had a lot of stuff woven into our marketing campaigns that were just serendipitous for us, but we used it to our advantage. And I'll never forget, our PR person, we're driving to game one of the WNBA finals, turns around, she goes, ESPN wants to talk to you. I said, oh, what do they have how to clip something or something? They're like, no, they want to do a feature on you in the Twitter account.
Oh,
and I met the woman and I'm like, listen, I'm doing this out of my $600 studio in Groton, Connecticut. It's either Applebee's or live tweeting at night. So right. I'll live tweet at night. And I think the bosses realized there was no off switch with me. Sometimes I'll crush a 2-hour nap on a Saturday, but besides that, it's being on, being current, and the difference of 2 hours can make or break, a pop culture reference from being relative or old. So it's like watching the NBA finals. And when the first meme hits, you want to be the first or the fourth person, not the 50th. You're seeing that right now in quarantine. How many more times can we watch the Zoom interview? What are you doing? Are you gaming? Right. No, go in depth with that. Have them do a Twitch stream. Right. Everyone's doing Zoom interviews. What are you doing to separate yourself? So that was our big thing, and not getting caught in the monotony, and having someone who, to be honest, only ever watched 2 or 3 WNBA games in his whole entire life and never watched an NLL game come into that fold, I think kind of blew it up in the right way.
Yeah, that sounds like, I didn't never realize, what I'm saying, that the time and that you put into what you do, what I'm saying? And, that's why this interview is awesome, because I'm seeing how detailed and how much effort you put into the things you do, kind of being it's like the top athlete, man. To be at the top of your game, you always want to, like you say, you want to be the first four people to drop the meme. You don't want to be 50. So when I was playing ball, I remember being like, look, man, it's 90 degrees out. I'm in Tarrytown. I gotta go up to this high school and like putting these reps. You know what I'm saying? Get out there and run my 110s. And like I'm in the NFL, but I know no one else is doing this. At least that's in my mind. So it's just interesting the mentality that you have and the approach that you take. It's kind of similar to an athlete's approach to their craft.
Yeah, and I see the two sides of it too. It's the prep that goes into it. You mentioned the audiences and the goals for this, right? We always talk in transition about the why, right? All right, well, why are we doing social media on particularly Twitter and Instagram? Well, because we want to attract this particular audience, right? We still want to serve this other audience over here. So there's the prep, there's the goal orientation that go into it, but then the second part sounds like the flexibility that you're taking opportunities as they come to you. So you're not so rigid, which I think a lot of people that sort of over prep, they need to stick to their plan, but you also need to kind of go with the flow and take what's given to you.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Like I always go back to food references. Like, yeah, to make a good sandwich, you got to have really good cheese and really good meat and right tomatoes and lettuce and the right mayo or aioli or whatever. But if your bread stinks, it stinks. Like your sandwich will fall apart. So for me, my bread was always analytics and it was planning. So the planning, I worked with our marketing director, Maura Doyle, to put together what I called Big Bertha, which I presented at WNBA meetings in 2019. It was a 2-week spreadsheet. Everything was labeled so that I could give it to my VP and she knew 22% of our messaging that week was going to be ticket sales, 22% was going to be merch, 8% was going to be funny and engaging, and that was a brief estimate, right? Like it's basically the barriers. So I know, hey, let's bring it up to 30 for ticket sales. We're a little loose for this game. Or hey, let's bring up merch. We have some extra inventory. Can we do a giveaway? And then the second part is you always want to have analytics, because in social media, there's a lot of people going, why are we paying this guy X just to tweet things? And so if you could show this how many, and at college this is how many new recruits we're looking at. This is how many new recruits and families eyeballs are on our stuff. And in the Sun and the Black Wolves and in the XFL this is how many possible customers, or this is how many clicks led to the website, the ticket page. And this is how many of them ended up going through and purchasing when we were talking about email marketing. So all of that, you're always trying to prove your worth, and obviously trying to prove your worth more and more to get a bigger and better seat at the table. And in between that is where if you plan really well and you have strong analytics, in the middle during the week, if you take, what I always did was take the last few hours on Friday and the first few hours on Monday, the plans put into place. A lot of this can be scheduled out through Hootsuite or whatever you use. We used Hootsuite, and that way that allows you during the day where this thing, like, look at the past 2 days. It's been, look at this logo. What's the first player that comes to mind when you look at this logo? Like that allows you to stay current. You could jump on that trend. You could do something different if you plan out really well, because you're not playing catch up, trying to get if your boss wants 4 or 5 ticket messagings during the week, get those planned and scheduled out for Monday. So it allows you to have fun the rest of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you have a game on Friday. You get in that routine and you find yourself 4 months in, you're in a breeze, you're in a routine, like anything else.
Go ahead. I was gonna ask you, what do you see, what in your mind, what is your ultimate job? Like what is your fantasy job that you can have?
I love all the jobs I've been at, but at the same time, like wearing an XFL sweatshirt down to the Rite Aid up the street, and the kid looks and is like, is that the spring football league that might be starting? And it's like, no, we have an office of 150, 3 miles away. Mm-hmm. And being at the WNBA and at the NLL, I think when I called my dad way back when, and we had a discussion about going to get my master's and working with Don and working with all these people, he's like, well, what are you getting at? And obviously, I think my big goal is obviously to be a VP or a president of a team, be involved with tickets and all that, because I have that experience. But for me right now, it's running social media for a team. The one thing I did miss the XFL was the team level. I don't think there's anything you can beat, being on the ground floor with athletes and helping share their stories. We were able to do that at the XFL, but doing it from a team level is awesome. So really running social media or marketing for a team in the NFL, NHL, NBA, or Major League Baseball. Those are, what I call the big four. And, I think they're probably, you do 30 times four, they're 120 of the most coveted jobs in the nation. And to have one of those, that would put me in a spot where I could sit and say, at 24, at 25, I'm happy, I'm chilling, and this is exactly where I want to be. So that's the goal right now, especially taking this time.
You mentioned the team side, and with the team side comes the player side. I mean, you're a big dude. We'll just put it that way, right? You're down there on the court, right? You're getting in people's faces with camera. How is your relationship with the players, and how do players in general view some of the staff like you when they're so focused in and locked in on wanting to play the game and win the game, and having to do that stuff? Was your experience with some of your generation, which you're lucky, right? It's not like you have to deal with older guys now. Did the players in general embrace the stuff that you were trying to do and support you in that?
I think it all starts with trust. It ends and starts with trust. For me, it's getting there. It's one thing to show up on game days and ask to get photos of shoot around and stuff like that. But if you have a constant presence at practice, they get used to it. And I think when I look back, and people ask me this question all the time in interviews, at Quinnipiac, I was there always, whether it was showing up to a soccer practice on a windy Monday. The more you're there, the more they realize you're not there just to, get a one-off. And at the WNBA, my favorite story is the likes of Alyssa Thomas and Donquel Jones, two stars in the league, two people that are very quiet. Alyssa Thomas hates social media. Like, she doesn't want her picture taken. She doesn't want videos. Her and I have become best friends. Like, we talk weekly, we text. And everyone at the Sun, even the coaching staff, I'll never forget, our coach one time goes, "You get the same videos every day." I said, "Yeah, but at the same time, if I try to get a different video, I'm showing your play scheme. I'm showing what your defense you're running. Do you want me to do that? I'll do that and change it up. But then LA is going to know what we're running for game 3." And I'll never forget, the whole team started laughing and was like, "Oh crap." Like, he just told the coach, and he understood completely. Like, he never even thought of that. Right. And so when you build that trust, and at the same time being like, this is what's being told by me. And it's all about, like, I still believe if you can just get them, don't ask to stick it in their face, get them in the natural flow, everything kind of works. And I think that's the difference, because sometimes these like one-off video shoots are a pain, like after practice, before practice, like, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? It's really frustrating. But if the social guys is coming, grabbing some video of practice, layups, whatever it is, they're just used to it. It's like, they just go do your job, let me do mine, and we'll all be successful.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to actually build relationships with players. If you're there all the time, for sure, and then they start to be curious about what you're doing. I definitely remember, being at practice and just being like, hey, seeing a scout there all the time. I didn't know he was a scout. He was a younger guy. And then, get into conversations about, oh, so who did you draft and who are you responsible for? But, you start to build those personal relationships, especially for the people that, not as much of the team operation, but of the whole things that tie into the aspect of the organization.
Yeah, there's so many different things. And it's just like, for me, it was always like, I just kind of want to be in the process, like in the weeds, on the bus. Like, and sometimes I know that's not possible with access and stuff like that. And it changes with every team. And at Quinnipiac, that's where I was lucky. Like, we had 21 different teams and 21 coaches that all wanted their teams marketed a different way. Access was different. So through that, I really got to learn how to handle a team that won't give you that much access. Like, our hockey team was our number one team, but gave me zero access, like treated me like I was the news channel. So how do I get video of them going out onto the ice? I stick my hand from the stands with a camera and it looks just like I'm there. So like, you get used to the teams that give you all the access, no access, just all getting used to it. And that allows me now, as I'm in job interviews, for a team that's like, listen, we're going to give you all the access in the world, or a team that says, hey, we got a GM or a coach that doesn't want to do access. And you go, that's fine. I'm used to rolling with those punches, and allowing yourself to be flexible really allows you to be successful in my job.
Tyler, I want to touch back on something, and then I want to tee you up for some fun stories that I know you like to tell over and over, but they're equally enjoyable. But one thing you touched on Barstool, which is you mentioned being one of the younger writers for that company now, going from a place like Barstool to a place like the WNBA, which, to the layman would be kind of polar opposites. Tell us a little bit about your Barstool experience.
Yeah, and I think I always laugh about it that it's like I wear all these different hats, right? And for me, it was using my hat from Quinnipiac and the very PR. We were very regimented. My boss at the time, before he was let go, was very like, don't do this, don't do that. A lot of don'ts. Where in Barstool, it's like, do whatever you want. But at the same time, there was like their own little rules. And so when I sat down to have my interview with Amber Cox, the WNBA and the NLL, I was very open. I have a Barstool pass without conflict with the WNBA. I said, listen, I don't think that's a problem for me personally. Like every interview I go into, I address it. I say, and it shows that if you want to go edgy, fun, different, I can do that. Quinnipiac for 6 years shows you that I can go into a room, wear a suit, a tie, be quiet, do my job. My time at transition tells you I can work one-on-one with a personality, a celebrity, an athlete. So whatever you need me to do, and then it all worked out. With the Black Wolves and the Sun, you're talking about two completely different teams. And the way we approached our social channels were kind of like 6 different things. So I kept joking that I was like the guy from Split. Like I had all these different personalities for all these different social media accounts. Like we were going fun and a little bit more out there on Twitter. Our Instagram was a lot more, kind of just really clean cut and cool photos. Facebook this was the Sun side. On the Sun side, it was older, white people like, hey, where is the joke, like the Karens of the world, like, where is our season tickets? It's like, please read the graphic above there. It's May 15th. No wonder they're not there. It's March 31st. And then the Black Wolves, it was more family based on Facebook, and it was more lacrosse junkies on Twitter. So we knew we'd have to dive in the stats and really play up these weird goals and stuff that I had to teach myself on. And Instagram, it was kind of a mixture of both. So doing all that and learning all that has made a really fun concoction in my brain, and getting all these reps, it just goes back to like, I'm a chameleon. I kind of blend in wherever I need to blend.
Well, you could probably hear or infer Tyler's tenacity when it comes to his work, but I think what also cracks me up is his tenacity for first impressions. But the reason I met Tyler was through a mutual friend, Mike Germano, who was a Quinnipiac alum. But I think you always tell the story about when you and I met, but the Mike one just kind of cracks me up even more. So tell us about how we connected via your connection to Mike.
Yes, I think those are like my 2 favorite stories. So I had 2 brothers, both business majors, up BC and Hopkins. So like I'm the complete weird shaped potato of the family. And like my older half brother's like, you need a business minor. You can't just be like journalism and sports studies like your buddies. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm taking entrepreneurship. Both my parents are entrepreneurs, and I get connected with Dale Jasinski. And Dale Jasinski's like, hey, this guy, Mike Germano, he runs Vice. He's coming up to speak to Quinnipiac tonight. So I had to do it was like a 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock thing. And then at 10 o'clock, I had to hop on air at like our Quinnipiac ESPN to talk about field hockey. So I'm like just sweating in a suit, sitting in this hall, and Germano's playing like this crazy Vice video of like reporters being thrown out of planes and landing in Uganda and stuff. And he's like, and then he goes into the whole spiel like, I think everyone's lazy here. Don't come up asking for internships. I don't want to give Quinnipiac kids internships. And I'm like, yeah, this guy, I'm telling him off. So like I go up and I'm like, hey, I kind of agree with you really bad. Let me prove you wrong. And I was like, first of all, I'm not wearing this suit because I thought I was going to meet you. I have a stupid field hockey thing in 15 minutes for like 12 moms and their dad and my dad to watch on YouTube. So like, and so I give him my whole spiel, and he's like, just give your email this person, my partner, and we'll get you set up. I think I have a sports guy in the South Jersey area. I was like, cool. So like I'm sitting covering a women's basketball game, and 55 like different Twitter accounts start following me, which is Don, Outside Game, Blogs with Balls, and Transition all at once. And I was like, oh no, I'm being under attack. So like I'm like, and so Don then hits me up and is like, yo, come. It was the Cordell doc.
Well, wait, let's stop right there though, because first Mike's like, yeah, I was up at Quinnipiac and this kid was stalking me. He's from South Jersey. If nothing else, you guys could talk the Eagles or something. But he seems aggressive. See what he's all about. Like he wants to do sports. You're the sports guy. You talk to him. Like it was just basically like Mike, like just like passing him off.
Throwing him off.
Right.
Yeah. And so me and Don connect. I tell him I can't come to the Cordell screening, but I'll be down for winter break in a couple weeks. So Don and I agreed to meet at what diner was it? I always forget it, but it's the one on 206.
Mastori's.
Yeah, Mastori's. And
which
so
is like one of the now Jersey is known for the diners. Mastori's in Bordentown is basically the biggest diner menu in New Jersey. So it's like the biggest menu of the biggest menus in the world.
Literally the Mecca. So I'm like in like a sweater, like a shirt, and Povia rolls in, backpack, some North Face like metallic-y black vest, like almost a quarter zip or like a mock turtleneck, beanie, sunglasses, slings the backpack into the booth and was like, "What's up?" And I was like, "This is like a sports special agent. Like this is mission." So like, and then he's just woofing down corned beef hash. I'm like so nervous. I'm barely eating a bacon egg omelet because all I did was meet Germano, who scared the living hell out of me. So I think Povia is like Germano. And then me and Don are chatting it up. We realize it's going to work and we're going to work together. And he's like, "I just got to wait here. My wife will kill me if I don't bring home the bread from the stores," which is delicious. It's the best. And like literally, what's that? Almost 3 years later, we're still working together.
I mean,
4?
If not.
That's longer than that, because I met you at the draft in Philly. I think that's when I first met
That was
you.
my
Was at
first big gig. So like, I've been everywhere from like attending the Dom Povia Derby party.
You were hustling, man.
Party.
Yeah, and that was the day he was like, it was in between my first and second year of my master's. It was about a couple months before I ended up taking the Sun job. And he was like, "We got an office in New York." And I was like, "I'm in." And then I went home and realized it was going to be an hour and 10-minute drive to the train station, take a 40-minute train, and then another 40-minute train, and then a 15-minute walk. And I was like, wasn't too shabby.
Yeah, you talk about tenacity. He was commuting to New York from South Jersey to
south.
Yeah, like south of me.
Wow, that's what's up, man. I like it.
And like, it's funny. Like as I'll never forget. Like I built out on April 10th. I kind of had to go like create my bunker team. Like, okay, so who's all the people I know that have 1, connections, and 2, like will not just tell me to take any job that's out there. And I was like, Don Povia, Mike Germano, who blew me off that day because NASA called him. "I will call you back. NASA is calling." And I went, "What?" He's like, "Yes, like the space, NASA," and hung up on me. He called me back. And Judd and Shannon Judd. So like, these are the people. Like Shannon has always been like a big sister to me. Been at transition forever. Don is literally my second dad. My mom like literally is like, "Have you talked to Don today?" Like, yeah, it's fine. And like all these people, and like me and Germano have reconnected through some other different things. But he was the one that brought me down. I don't even know if I can go into this story, but like he was trying to send me to the Yankees to be the social media manager at 21. And I was like, another day I was just profusely sweating through a dress shirt.
So I got another good Broche story, and then we'll kind of wrap it. But we were working with Eric Kelly. So if you Google Eric Kelly boxing, he's the meanest trainer in New York City. Eric was doing a little podcast, and actually he asked me about doing something else, but he had a gym in the South Bronx. So we were going to interview Melly Mel, right? Grandmaster Melly Mel.
Yes.
Like in the South Bronx. And so me and Tyler get off the subway in the South Bronx and start walking through, and he's got like his Docksider shoes on, like his pleated pants, like nice.
Oh no,
looking like a repo man.
I'm like, dude, you're the whitest guy in the South Bronx, like ever.
Not good. It was a Lululemon, like not teal, but like a dark greenish teal polo, Sperry's, and J. Crew Doc shorts. It looked like I was a Sims character. It was that bad.
I got dropped in the South Bronx.
It was a good experience. Makes for a great story.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
Well, Tyler, man, we appreciate you coming on. I really think this is like a blueprint for any young kid
Yeah.
wanting to get into sports or sports media. I mean, there's a lot of different boxes that you've checked off, and I mean that's a testament to you and, like I said, tenacity, man. Even going back some of the high school sports or the high school stuff. I don't know if I didn't remember it or I hadn't heard it, but you put it really in perspective. It's not 3 years of experience. It's 9 years of experience, but that has to do with something that Keith always said. You use his term, just putting the reps in, right? And I think that's why I've always sort of appreciated you as a person and your work ethic, as a colleague, is the fact that you're just going to do it. Speaking of Melly Mel, I mean, I still laugh. We got this great picture of him escorting Flava Flav through the Barclays Center when we did the Yo MTV rap stuff, right? I mean, you drop him in there. You took care of business. You did what you had to do. Maybe you weren't the most comfortable, but you adapt because you're professional and you're able to do that. And you're personable. You're professional and you're personable, which, you don't always get that every day.
I still, to this day, that's the number one. It's like on my activity for my Apple Watch. That day I walked over 18 miles. I mean, nothing for runner Don here, but 18 miles of steps to the Barclays. Straight up telling Fat Joe he has to do media and him yelling at me telling him, no, you have to do media.
Yeah, wait.
Tell me that story.
Did he call you the N-word?
Yeah. He was like, and I was just like, I said, yo, you need to do media. And he was like, no, bleep. And I was like, but that's my job. I got to take it to media. And he was wearing just this giant bright blue sweater in the middle of June. And I was like, and then he did it. He listened to me. And Flava Flav, I was like, remember, who did I end up bringing? The guy from Ink Master backstage. He found me back. I had all access.
Dave Navarro.
Yeah, me and Dave Navarro and his girlfriend at the time were just hanging out backstage because he was friends with the guy who was actually running the thing. And I was just
he was friends with Fab Five Freddy.
Yeah. So a hilarious day. But that was the thing. And for me, it's always been work really hard, be really nice. And if I'm not nice and I don't really work very hard, it's all the little things, right? I could always be nice to Don, but it's being nice to the people that he's introduced me to, like you, like his wife, Angela, those little things all add up. And if you can treat people like they're humans instead of and that was, I think, the one thing Germano remembers. It's yeah, he'll probably joke and play it off that I bum rushed him, but I was just treating him like a person while everyone else was treating him like a demigod. It's
right.
Yeah, you were me 20 years ago. Congrats, you're successful, but help a brother out over here. Even the glasses in the front row, help me out.
Well,
I'm coming up. I don't care.
Talk about taking care of business. Here's the other point: is he talks about putting 18 miles in. I feel a lot of people, and I'm not just talking young people. I'm talking people my age too. They forget that this is a job, right? So when you're doing those things, you're there to work. Yeah, it's fun, and you have fun stories, and you'll bump in, particularly with bumping into athletes and stuff like that. But you're there to do something. You're getting paid by someone to do a job, and make sure that your job comes first. You can enjoy it if you can enjoy it, but you're not there to have fun. You're there to work. And that's another thing. Yeah, we had fun, but he put his work in, and that's why he keeps, climbing the ladder like he's climbing.
The Donovan McNabb story, draft party. The guy, I grew up watching Donovan McNabb either make or break my Sundays, and we're in the middle of a Philadelphia draft party. And I got to say, he's out in a parking lot. Instead of being yo, let me get a quick selfie. It's hey, you're 15 minutes late. We need to hurry you through the circuit. And he was okay, just take me where I got to go. And at the time, that was when I was a fat 20-year-old. I was okay, please. I'm sweating. Let's go.
Efficiency. What sticks out is definitely your work ethic. Don's used the word tenacity a lot, but your work ethic, and you're only 24 years old, and your attention to your professionalism, and you put in the work. You're not afraid you're not intimidated by any task, it seems like. And I'm glad that you're a part of our team. We're a part of the same network, and we get to watch you grow. I really didn't even realize you're only 24 years old. So yeah, big things coming.
Naughty.
A young buck.
Well, young buck, old buck, old bull, young bull. Yeah, this was a good one. This is the outside game. Like I said, I think this is a blueprint, and I am going to require that my future interns watch or listen to this episode.
Sure.
So yeah, we're gonna get this one up soon. And Tyler, what's the best place to reach you?
It's probably Twitter or Instagram. I'm always on one of them. It's at Tyler_Brosh. It's BROSH. So TYLER_BROSH. So best way to hit me up there, LinkedIn, anywhere. So I'm always on one or another.
Cool. Well, I'm Don Povia. That's Tyler Brosious, and that is Mr. Monday Night Keith Bullock. Until next time.
Peace.
Later.